So, welcome for today's session. We were discussing text number 62 and 63 in previous class, which is a process of how fall down happens, and we gone into some depth of it. Basically, first is contemplation on the sense object. One keeps thinking about the sense object, and then develops attachment for it. One becomes attached. I want that. I want that. And that becomes stronger and stronger desire to enjoy, very strong desire to enjoy. Then it's called lust. And because one doesn't get it, or there is any obstacle in getting it, then one develops anger when the obstacle comes in the way. And in anger, one forgets what is to be done, what is not to be done. There's bewilderment of memory, which can tell us what is good, what is wrong, what is discrimination. Even loss of intelligence happens, and then one fall downs. We took two examples: small child, criminal, and I told about a, a picture. So here it is. Some cartoonist, he drew this, the mobile craze, or whatever it is. Uh, the company shows a new product, and people become too attached to it. They want to buy it. They go in the line, they buy it, and they become very happy. Here, I got it. I got it. They will sleep with it. Then later on, a new next version of that mobile or iPad or whatever is released, and he sees that everyone has that version and he doesn't have that version, so he becomes sad. Then in anger, he forgets what is to be done, what is not to be done. He's shown like he's selling his own family members to get it. Then he gets money, and with that money he buys, and he thinks, now I'm happy. But then later on he hears that there is another version of device coming, and then he becomes angry. So I felt like this cartoon explains a lot of our situation of contemplating, developing attachment, and then, committing mistakes, loss of intelligence, and ultimately falling down. So now, what to do in this situation? How we can avoid, right? So what we are discussing is how a Sthita Pragya soul, what are his general symptoms, how does he speak, how does he sit, and how does he walk. So we discussed that. Now we will move into how does he walk, meaning how he responds to the sense objects, or how does he engage his senses. Walking means movement. So how does one engage his senses? That's what we are entering into. So 2.64, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Vishayan Indriyascharan Atma Vishayar Videya Atma Prasadam Adhigachati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion will be able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain complete mercy of the Lord. So how one can avoid fall down? Basically, one has to get free from attachment and aversion. Attachment means I want it. Aversion means we have something but we don't like it. We have a strong dislike. Attachment means you like it and a dislike. So come to equipoised situation where instead of dislike like, we should utilize it for the right purpose. But how to know all this thing? When one does from the regulative principles of freedom. We'll get more into detail. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of fall. In the previous versus we saw that even if one tries to control the senses, see, we have to anyway control, but that is not the only thing to be done. So one tries to control the senses, but the senses are very strong. The eyes, the nose, the ears, they pull a person to do something. You can see this picture, right? Is it big enough? You see, the senses are very strong. They pull us in all directions. Yeah, they pull us in all directions. Therefore, we need to engage them. Children are very strong, right? They can make the parents run here and there after them. But if a toy is given or if they are put in a play group, then the parents don't have to worry, right? They know they are engaged now. Now the child won't disturb. Similarly, senses are to be engaged. If one tries to control, still mind is going here and there, right? Yeah, still mind is going here and there. Therefore, one should be engaged. If you see on the right hand side picture, we should be engaged. See, we definitely need eating, we definitely need sleeping, we definitely need mating, and we definitely need defending. Four things are needed. But if that is engaged in connection with Krishna, in connection with the Supreme, then those things, they don't drive us crazy. They don't take away from our goal. They don't make us distracted. Getting? So therefore, we should have a very strong purpose of whatever we are doing. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And we should be able to connect it with Krishna. Now, where does we get all that knowledge? We'll get more into it. Unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of this, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. We are on the sensual plane, but when we connect to Krishna, we don't get attracted to sensual activities. We know how to utilize every sense of that and be satisfied with it. A Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. Our focus is what pleases Krishna. That I will do. What doesn't please, I won't do. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if a Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. So own satisfaction is not the concern. What is pleasing to Krishna is the concern. I'll give an example. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control, because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is causeless mercy of the Lord. Now, this particular attitude is acquired by the mercy of the Lord, meaning the Lord awards this attitude. It's very difficult to get this attitude. When we show our sincerity and our love, then we get this attitude, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's see. Yeah, here. You see this on this flag, right? Actually, it's written Om, but it was not Om. It is Hanuman. It was Hanuman out there on the flag.
Sir, it zoomed, so it's not visible properly.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Wait.
it was zoomed from my side. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, okay, okay. No problem. So, yeah. So on the flag on the chariot of Arjuna is Hanuman. So here it is shown Om, but actually it is Hanuman there. So we know from Ramayan story, Hanuman did big activities, right? Big mountains, big boulders, big demons he killed. So his capacity is really big. But in the Dwapar Yuga, in the pastime of Krishna, Krishna told him, you be on the flag and you shout, you do screeching shout. You know, That's it. You be on the flag and you do this. Don't fight. So even though his capacity was to fight, and in one shot he could have killed everybody, right? Mahabharat would have ended in one day only. He was so powerful. I mean, he's so powerful, Hanumanji, right? But Krishna, who is Lord Ram also, ordered him to do, now you just sit on the flag and watch. And he was happily doing that. He didn't protest. He said, no, my capacity is this much. I am skilled person. You are not giving me the right job. I don't have job satisfaction. So he was not thinking about all these things. Whatever is pleasing to Krishna, he will do. And therefore, whether to act or not to act is within our control. Because it is only if it is pleases Krishna, then only I'll do. Otherwise, I won't do. And that kind of attitude that Hanuman got was by the causeless mercy of the Lord. Mercy of the Lord. Okay. So they can do ordinary things or on extraordinary things. If it pleases the Lord, that's it. There is no other concern. In such a situation, one doesn't fall down, whatever happens. We discussed, Hanumanji went to Ravana's palace, and there was a lot of things to enjoy. But he was not at all interested in all these things. He didn't fall down to that. Okay, 65 verse. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasopya jayate prasanna chetaso hiyeshu buddhi paryayavishtete. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Miseries that we face in this world, right, are very painful. But one who is situated in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't experience that misery. Misery is there. Externally, one may think. We'll take again the example of Hanumanji. His tail was burning, but he was so much in service of the Lord that he forgot. Tail is burning on other. He used that to burn the whole kingdom of Lanka. Right? And he didn't make a big fuss of it. They burnt my tail and all that. Nothing. You burnt, fine. I will still do service to Krishna. So that is a very highly elevated condition. It comes by the mercy of the Lord. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya chakayustasya bhavana na chabhayanti shantir ashantasya kuthasukham. One who's not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can neither be can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So we are looking for peace, because when we become peaceful, we become happy. Definitely. And Bhagavad Gita says we should be connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. And then we'll have transcendental intelligence. Intelligence which is greater, which is spiritual in nature, and steady mind. Our mind is very restless, right? Keeps moving here and there like a pendulum. We want to make it steady, be focused. So we have to get in connection with Krishna. And then we'll have peace, and then there will be happiness. So this is the solution. What exactly all these details mean, Krishna consciousness and all, we'll discuss. We have discussed some parts of it, but more we will discuss. Unless one is Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5.29. We read this verse. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram surhut sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. If you want peace, know that Krishna is the enjoyer. Krishna is the controller, the proprietor of everything, and at the same time, he's the best friend. Surhit sarva bhutanam, of everybody, not just few people, everybody. In this world, we cannot find a person who has these three qualities together with him. That he enjoys everything, and he controls everything, he owns everything, and at the same time he's friendly to everyone. If somebody is enjoying too much, he's not friendly to everyone. If somebody owns anything, he just doesn't want to give it to anybody, right? But Krishna says, I I give everything to you, even though everything is mine, but I give it. This water, earth, water, fire, ether are my energy, but I give it to the living entity so that they can utilize it. But what they do is they don't give it back to me. They don't reciprocate back to me. They don't show gratitude, and they steal. They steal from me. And by doing so, they are punished by the nature. And then they become unpeaceful, disturbed always. Krishna is the only enjoyer of all results of sacrifice penances, and he's the proprietor of all universal manifestation, and he's the real friend of all living entities. See, in this regard, I will tell you a story of Yudhishthir Maharaj, the great Pandava king. You have his picture? I think so. Yeah. Yudhishthir Maharaj, with his queen Draupadi and 4 brothers. When he got when the Dhritarashtra divided the kingdom into two, and he gave him Indraprastha, which was not a very great land. He gave him here to take it, and then Krishna helped Yudhishthir to build palace and all that, and it was a huge palace. It was very wonderful palace. Seeing that, Duryodhan got angry, envious, right? After getting everything in short time, it takes some time, right? But due to Krishna, he called Vishwakarma and he got the palace built in days. So Yudhishthir saw, oh, Krishna did so much for me. I have to do something for him. So Yudhishthir Maharaj did a Rajsuya Yagya. In that Rajsuya Yagya, he called all the kings and everyone. And at the end of the Yagya, at the end of the sacrifice, one has to honor the topmost person present there. So when it came to know, to find out who is the topmost, Yudhishthir Maharaj chose Krishna. Krishna, you are the topmost. Now there were other sages like Narad Muni, Vyasadev, everyone was there. But Yudhishthir Maharaj said, no, Krishna is the supreme. He is the final benefactor. So he knew this 5.29 verse. And he's the real friend of all living entities. Then only one can have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be final goal for the mind. Like Duryodhan, he was envious of Krishna. So his goal was not at all peaceful, just disturbing. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. Note down this line. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. When one is certain that Krishna is the enjoy proprietor and a friend of everything, and then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. See, in general also, in our material life also, in our day-to-day life, if we don't have a goal, कि अब मुझे क्या करना है, then our mind will be disturbed. Think in spiritual life, the same thing happens. When one doesn't come to the conclusion, doesn't accept that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, friend, then also he won't have ultimate goal, and he won't have peace in his mind. It will always be disturbed. Therefore, we see some so-called spiritualists, they start opening hospitals and all that, and they think that this is the spiritual thing. No, spirituality is for the spirit. These are all good things to do, but they are not the ultimate things to do. Getting? They start then interfering in politics. The religious people in the garb of sannyasi, they start no, it's not required. Once a sannyasi, you just don't enter back into material life. Therefore, one who is engaged without relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. However much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is a peaceful condition. Indriyani hi charatam yan mano anu nuvidyate Tasya harati prajnam vayur navam ivambhasi. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one roaming sense on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. We discussed this multiple times, but I'll show you the picture. He's closing his eyes and all that, but still within his mind, he's thinking of a beautiful girl, and therefore he's not able to be peaceful. Whereas a devotee is always thinking about Krishna. Even in front of them, even if a beautiful girl comes, they are not worried. Unless all the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj, all the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for this is the correct technique for controlling the mind. So if you want to control the mind, then each of the senses should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Maharaj Amrish, we read this, right? Padaravindayor. Use your feet in walking to the temple of the Lord in the holy place. Use your words, your mouth, your tongue in glorifying the Lord, in tasting Krishna Prasadam, in touching the devotees, touching their feet, all that we discussed, right? So when one is doing that every day, day and night for many years, then automatically this controlling of mind happens. 68. Tasmadyasya mahabhavo nigranati sarvashah indriyani indriyathebhyas tasya pragna patishthita. Oh, therefore, O mighty one whose senses are restrained from sense objects is certainly of steady intelligence. See, the point is restrain. Restrain means prevent, control it, and there is another word which is called repression. There is one is restrain, other one is repression. Repression means you do restrain, but by force, by subduing, by inhibiting the feeling, the quality. Okay, restrain is controlling and little bit allowing. Only that much which is required. But repression is like zero, nothing allowing, nothing doing. Put that senses into jail where it cannot come out. That when one does, then it's a big problem. But when one just restrains it, controls it, utilizes it for the service of the Lord, then he'll be happy. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by the means of Krishna consciousness or engaging all senses in the transcendental living service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior forces, the senses are similarly be curbed not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in senses, in intelligence, and one should practice that art under the guidance of spiritual master, is called the sadhaka or suitable candidate for liberation. Now, here is one solution given. To become steady in intelligence, one has to practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So therefore, first instruction is to accept a bona fide spiritual master. What is a bona fide spiritual master? Now, we in material life, have to go to some doctor. Do we go to any doctor? If somebody is on the footpath and he says, "I'm a doctor, come, I'll check you." He's sitting on the footpath, there's nothing here and there. Will one go? No. Why? Even if say we get a doctor, he's not qualified. Okay, fine. It's easy to understand. He's not qualified. But let's say somebody is advertising in a very posh locality and all that, and will we go there?
We can consider it.
We can consider. Okay, we can consider. Now, if we go enter into that, what are we going to see? What are we looking for? If you want to really decide, okay, let's take consultation from this doctor. What exactly are we looking for there?
His expertise, how experienced he is.
Credentials. his credentials.
Credentials.
Yeah, is he really a doctor? So so every doctor has to post on the wall that I passed MBBS on this date from this university, like that, right?
Yes,
Similarly, a lawyer or a university, also college. You have to see, if it is connected with AICT or UGC, whatever. It's a deemed university or it's a private university. It's a university which has good standing. The teachers are also studied it under different universities. Then we can say it is bona fide. Similarly, when it comes to spiritual life, people don't check this point. They don't check the bona fideness of the spiritual master. They just take anybody on the road. Oh, he's wearing orange or he's wearing white or black. Let me listen to him. See, we have to respect from a distance, but when it comes to listening and following, right, we have to be seeing this quality of bona fideness, right? So people, they neglect this and therefore they get confused in spiritual life and they get cheated in spiritualism. So many scams come out. This Babaji, that guru did this, right? So many scams come out. Reason is this bona fideness is not seen. Within a bona fide organization, also, one should be careful. Okay.
yes.
यानीशा सर्वभूतानां तस्य जागृति संयम्या यस्मान जागृति भूतानि ना सा निशा पश्यतो मुने. What is night for all beings is time of awakening for the self control, and the time of awakening for all beings is the night of introspective stage. You tell me, what does this mean? Give a guess. Any guess?
Uh, it's like, no, sorry, no.
Tell me, till what time does a late night party in a pub or a hotel goes on?
Very late, so like 3 o'clock.
3
Sometimes
o'clock
even till morning.
till morning, right?
Like, six,
Everybody
seven
is
o'clock.
sleeping. Every sane person is sleeping, but this guy is awake. And when sane person, wise person, he gets up, what happens to these people who were all
They
night
sleep.
partying? They sleep. This is what exactly this means. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent material activities for sense gratification, meaning just for enjoyment. They are very intelligent. They want to find new things. And other is introspective Americ, wise person, to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for materially absorbed. We gave the example of pub and all. No, this is the thing. Materialistic person remains asleep in such a night due to ignorance of self-realization. So they sleep when they ignore, when they have no knowledge of self-realization. But an introspective sage, he's alert in the night of the materialistic man, which is basically the day. Daytime they are sleeping and introspective sage is working around, right? The sage feels transcendental pleasure in gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas man in material activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy, sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. See, those who enjoys in these pubs and all that, right? It is sometimes happiness, sometimes distress. Can you tell me how they are happy and at the same time they are distressed?
Happiness when when we go there once in a while with our friends or with our close people, and we just go there to relax, to enjoy. And sadness is like when we get addicted to it, like when we need to go there every weekend, when we crave for
See,
it
whether we
every.
go one time or many times, this one thing happens with alcohol. First peg, you feel okay. Second
Okay,
peg,
okay, you're talking about alcohol. Okay, okay. Alcohol, I
hey,
guess
I'm just
alcohol is
taking example. Alcohol, whatever. Then they get hangover.
hmm,
Or
hmm,
sometimes
hmm.
they vomit.
Extreme. They do it in extreme. Like if
See,
you
what
drink
is
it as an
extreme is also
appetizer,
very confusing for them.
it depends on person to person, right?
Depends on person to person. But then, because they are burning that night, and instead of peaceful sleep, next morning they are completely disarrayed. They don't know what to do. They are in, like,
Correct, correct.
intoxicated state. Now
Correct.
we, as a sane people, we know that this thing is really painful. But for them, they're thinking, oh, this is happiness. And sometimes they are, so distressful. They're vomiting.
Yes,
They're
yes.
just
True,
spending money. They're losing money, but they have no concern.
true, true.
Anyway, I took an example of ill social activities, but this is what is the case. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activity undisturbed by material reactions. So one who's on spiritual path, he doesn't get disturbed by all these things. He is focused on his thing, and he avoids all these things. अपूर्यमानाम अचल प्रतिष्ठम समुद्रम अपह प्रवशन्ति याद्वत् तद्वत् कामयत् प्रवशन्ति सर्वे स शांतिम आपनोति न काम कामी. It's a very interesting verse. How to be undisturbed. Okay. A person who is not disturbed by incessant flows of desires that enter into rivers that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. See, in the ocean, so many rivers, they enter into the ocean, right? But do they disturb the ocean? No. We don't find that the ocean level goes up so soon, right? Now you take example of a pond, and it rains heavily. 8 hours it raining. What will happen to the pond? The water will rise in it.
Yes.
It will overflow. But here, rivers are flowing into the ocean for months and years and continuously in all seasons, 365 days. Do we see the ocean? Do we see the ocean overflowing?
No, we don't.
No, right? So this is the example one is taken. Krishna has taken that if our mind is like the ocean, we can absorb all the incessant flows of desires. But if it is like a pond, we'll get overflow and then gone. So ocean is able to tolerate these flows of desires, and while others, they will try to satisfy all the desires that are coming in. Let me satisfy this, let me satisfy that, let me do, and in that they'll be troubled. Okay, okay. Let's read through this, and we'll get more idea into it. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always especially during the rainy season. See, when it rains in the ocean also, right? Being filled much with water, but the ocean always remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limits of its brink. This is true with the person who's fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. See, we have this material body. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending are one of the demands of the body. If we try to forcibly stop it and stop our eating, we will die. Therefore, what does a devotee do? He doesn't forcibly stop. He doesn't repression. He restricts it or restrains it, but he doesn't deny it. Yeah, repression means to deny it, and um, restrain means you allow something and you don't allow many things, right? You allow certain things, you don't allow certain things.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So when one does that, then the demands of the body are met, but they are not in excess. Last time I gave this links. Like some people, they drink alcohol. but 1 peg, 2 peg, and then they won't even touch. They won't have difficulty of hangover and all that. And some don't even touch. So there is no question only. But then there are these people who will empty 1 bottle after 2 bottle after 3 bottle, 4. What can we expect from them then? Right?
So
Anyway,
what do you think is better? Like, experiencing
what?
it, like for example, you
Sorry?
take two. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
So what do you think is better, like not touching it at all, or
See,
experiencing it but in a
certain things,
limit?
right? Certain things like this alcohol and drugs and all that are to be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Complete avoidance is required of certain foods which are not necessary for the body. See,
Okay. Okay.
wine, alcohol, people can live without it, right? But let's say
Yes.
water,
Mm-hmm.
not possible to think like that, right? Water is
Correct.
needed anyway. But juice, sometimes no. But what about alcohol, wine? If one, even if starts sometimes, right, there's a chance to slip down. But if someone sometimes is taking juice and sometimes not taking, there's nothing. The problem with alcohol and wine, what is the ultimate problem with alcohol and wine? If I ask you, what is the problem with that?
It damages our liver, our
Yeah.
brain.
Does the juice damage our liver?
Not at definitely not at that extent. Like there
Yeah.
is. Yeah,
See the
it
extra sugarness that comes out from the body. But this alcohol thing destroys the body. So what is destroying the body should be avoided. Zero. And one can stand firm on it.
yes
Okay.
yes yes.
So
But
from that perspective, you see to these things. There is one more perspective which I will show because you have asked, which Bhagavad Gita says, and we will go to it. Um, yeah. Instead of this, let me. Okay. Yeah. You can see this.
yes.
Okay. So there are three modes: Sattva guna, Rajas guna, Tamas guna. Goodness, passion, ignorance. One has to avoid things which increases tamas. Okay, and moves towards goodness. Simple. We have to move from ignorance to goodness, from bad to good. Right? There's nothing wrong in this understanding. Now we'll talk mostly about food. Let's see, food. Hmm. So there are some foods which are pleasing to heart, which are, you know, juicy, fatty, wholesome. They increase our longevity. They purify our existence. They give happiness and satisfaction. But some foods which are decomposed and putrid in nature, they causes distress to us. So wine is nothing but grape juice, which has been kept for a long time. So either one can take a grape juice fresh, or one can take it after a long time in the form of wine. But the difference is, when it takes it fresh, it is good. But the same juice, when it takes it very old, decomposed, then it causes distress. So by this, we should see, we should decide what we want to do. Bitter, sour, salty. Okay, little is fine. But too much of it, what will happen? There'll be ulcers in the body, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So wholesome, pure food, they are very easy to attain. Milk, grains, vegetables, fruits. Very easy to attain. Foods which are modern passion will be very, one will feel very happy with the senses, burgers, this, that, etc.
Because of
Chips
the
and all.
control.
But what happens, they also do some damage to the body, no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So from this perspective, we have to decide on the food. Getting?
Correct.
And
Yes.
and then for us, then for many things, we have to decide the same thing. This is a concept in I mean, this is how Bhagavad Gita teaches, how to make decisions. Goodness, passion, ignorance. So anything which leads us to goodness, we should do. Anything which leads us to ignorance and passion, we should reduce it, avoid it completely. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes.
talked about food. You take about everything. Music. You talk about work. You talk about uh, sacrifice. And we have to look at all these 3 points and then decide where to go. Is this good for me or not? Simple.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita will talk about these 3 modes. But these 3 modes concept will keep coming again and again and again. So I'll keep referring to this document, 3 modes document. It's very interesting. This is a interesting one. I'll try to share this on our group. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
As long as one has material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. So we have some demands. We can't destroy ourselves by negating it. Okay. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires of his fullness. A, a Krishna conscious person is not in need of anything because he fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he's like an ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like waters of the river that flow into ocean, but he's steady in his activities. He's not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is a proof of a Krishna conscious person. So when somebody is not disturbed by all these things, he's a fully Krishna conscious person. One who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy the full peace. Others, however, who want fulfilled desires, even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruity workers, the salvinists, and the yogis, who are after mystic powers, are all unhappy because of the unfulfilled desires. But the persons in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. It does not He does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of the Lord have no material desires and therefore they are in perfect peace. This is the last verse. We have 4 minutes. Let's see if we can finish. Vihaya kamam yah sarvan pumas charati nispriha nirmoho nirahankaraha sa shantim adhigacchati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain peace. Another formula of attaining peace. Meaning, sense gratification you give up, only use what that is required for a body. Free from desires which are taking us towards ignorance and passion, but keeping those desires which are in goodness. Okay. So it's not free from all desires. That is Buddhist philosophy. You get free from all desires. But Bhagavad Gita philosophy is you get free from desires which take you to destruction and go to that and keep those desires which are constructive in nature.
So isn't passion necessary
No,
for
see,
driving us
see
for
the word.
livelihood?
The thing is the word passion, right? Doesn't mean that all passion things and all that. Okay, there is some details to this passion thing. Okay, passion means fruitive work. Here, the passion means fruitive work, meaning uh, which is very hard to acquire. It is just done for prestige and fortune. There is always anxiety and struggle.
But so don't you think it's necessary if we talk about career?
What? Sorry.
If we talk about career, so any degree which is prestigious or which
See, this passion means to do activities which are through any means, not through legal means. Okay. Yeah, that's what it means. Meaning, I will work hard even if it means that I have to commit crime. That is
Okay,
what is
okay.
meant by rajas. But one works hard with virtue, with righteousness, with good qualities. Then it is goodness.
Okay, okay. Understood,
Yeah.
understood.
So passion, if it is driven by this, fine. If it is driven by goodness, is fine. But passion, if it is driven by ignorance, it is misery.
Correct, correct. Got it now.
Yeah. See, Ravana also fought very um, bravely and strongly, right?
Yes, yes.
Expertly. But then the whole thing was driven with criminal thought. What is the point in doing that? See, terrorists also fight. The whole thing is driven by purpose to just kill people for no reason. So then that is not going to lead to anything. It's just madness. It is dark, inertia, illusion.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Getting? Hmm. So passion means what it is guided with. What is the purpose of that passion? That is very important. See, if we see a knife, do we say the knife is good or bad? No. If it is in the hand of a surgeon or a doctor, does the patient fear? No. But
No,
if it is in the
no.
hand of a thief and he shows the
Yes, sir.
knife in the middle of the night and he says, remove all the money, now you are fearful.
Correct,
But if
correct.
the same knife is in the hand of the surgeon, he says, now remove all your clothes, you are not worried because he's not for stealing, he's for. So, the purpose of the knife is very important than the knife. Okay. So, what is the
Yes,
purpose
yes.
of passion? What is the purpose of goodness? What is the purpose of ignorance? The ignorance means sleep. Does that mean we should not sleep? It simply means we should not oversleep and we should not undersleep. Undersleep will cause what problem? If someone sleeps undersleep, meaning only 2 hours a day, the next day he will be sleeping all day. He won't be able to focus. And if someone oversleeps, then what happens? They become too lazy.
Too lazy.
Every time I'm feeling sleeping, they'll do like this. But if somebody sleeps optimum 6 to 7 hours, then he'll feel fresh.
Yes,
So
correct.
utilize the activity in guided by goodness qualities. That's it. Okay. Eating, sleeping,
Understood,
waiting,
understood.
defending, driven by goodness qualities. Then one is not affected. Then he attains real peace. He is given up all sense of proprietorship. Now, this is a very important concept, proprietorship. Proprietorship simply means ownership. Hmm? We are
Yes.
secondary owners. We are not the primary owners. That is the concept of a spiritualist. I am always the secondary owner of what I own in this world. If this land is on my name, if this jaidad is on my name or whatever, this is all secondary proprietorship. I have to leave one day. I have to take care of this, use it in Krishna's service. That attitude one has when one gives up the sense of proprietorship. It's not like giving up sense of proprietorship, meaning I gave it up now. Nothing belongs to you. No, it means I know this is given to me for utilization of good of the people or and for the Supreme Lord. That's it. Then such a person will attain peace and is devoid of false ego. He alone can attain real peace. I'll finish this verse and we'll stop. To become desireless means not to desire of anything sense gratification. But other desires are okay. Desires to fulfill our stomach is fine. But desires to fulfill our tongue is problematic. Now you get it?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I understand now.
Because the tongue, even though it is so small, it drives crazily. But the stomach, once it's fulfilled, then you don't need to eat more. Right? But tongue, how much you put, you go to this restaurant, that restaurant, yeah. And then some disease happens. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is always desirelessness. So this is real desirelessness. Meaning we have one desire to become Krishna conscious. What is pleasing to Krishna? That is the desire. And when that desire only remains, then one is actually called as desireless. Okay, it doesn't mean zero desire. It means only that desire which helps us in our spiritual life. To understand one's actual position as eternal servant of Krishna without falsely claiming the material body to be oneself. See, here the point came of material body. I talked about possessions, jaidad. Even our body doesn't belong to us. So we have to utilize our body in Krishna service. And without falsely claiming the proprietorship of anything in the world, the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used in satisfaction of Krishna. So we should try to use it in satisfaction of Krishna. But how and all that details, how do we know how to use it in Krishna service? If I ask you this question, what is the answer? How to know?
As in, like how to use our conscious.
Yeah,
Con-
how to practice this in our real life?
as we had discussed once, like, by chanting his name.
Chanting, fine. But in
That
previous verse, we discussed, right? Under the guidance of a spiritual, bona fide spiritual master.
qualified, yeah, bona fide.
Yeah. Under that personality, we can then learn all this art. On our own, it is difficult. Okay.
Yes.
So first thing is to search for a guru. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction. But when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. See, at first he's saying, I don't want to fight because, I will get sinful and I will be unhappy. But then when he came to know Krishna wanted him to fight, he started fighting. And that was his perfection. For himself, there was no desire to fight. But for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for satisfaction of Krishna and not any artificial attempt to abolish or deny desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless. He does not, but he does have to change the quality of the desire. See, we have to change the quality of the desires, the purpose of the desires. Now you get it? Okay. A
Yes.
materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasam idam sarvam. This is one verse that comes from Ishopanishad, very interesting verse. And therefore, he does not falsely claim proprietorship of anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely knowingly perfectly well that every living entity is the eternal part of parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna and greater than him. This understanding of Krishna is the basic principle of real peace. So I'll just conclude with this Ishavasham idam sarvam verse, which is from another issue, another book called as Ishopanishad, and the very first verse of it is this verse. Ishavasam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatam jagat tena toktena bhunjita ma gridaha kasyat swadhanam. It's a very easy one to understand. Everything animate or inanimate that is within this material universe is controlled and owned by the Lord, by God. Okay. One should
Yes.
therefore accept only things necessary for himself. Take only thing what is necessary for himself, and which are set aside as his own quota. Whatever is your quota, only utilize that. And one should not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong. So only accept your quota. Don't encroach on other person's quota. So I'll give you an example. If there is a bag of rice lying on the ground, lying on the path, and few animals pass, birds pass, and at the end, human being passes. Tell me what the animal will do. It sees a rice of, a bag
We,
of rice. What it will do?
we will take it more, like, for future storage as well. We'll try to take as
Fine,
much as we
fine. He will
can.
eat and he will move on.
Yes.
Now take care of the. Now what happens if a bird comes there?
He'll eat it. He'll take it for his young ones,
How much
and
it will be? How much? How many grains he will take?
very
Let's
very
say.
little, like,
Little, no?
how, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 5, 10, 20, whatever. Hmm? Now a man passes through that path and he sees a bag of rice. Now what does a man do?
he will not only take for his current
He will
hunger,
pick up the
but
whole bag and he will go.
yes, yes,
So that time he won't think of his quota. He will think everything belongs to. So therefore, the first verse of Ishavasam says that in this world, it's everything belongs to the Lord. You take only what is required for a quota, and the remaining things you don't encroach on other people. Now I'll just show you something very interesting. It's called pyramid of food chain, you know this from science, right?
yes, yes.
Where is human being in this?
No, they're not there in the picture.
Why? And if you put the human being in the picture, what happens?
They get
He
everything.
destroys everything. He encroaches on every quota, right? He destroys the
Yes,
land, he destroys the tertiaries, he destroys the secondary, he destroys everybody. By his one act of climate change, pollution, he destroys everything. Because he forgets this verse. That is, everything is owned by the Lord, and you only take what is there for your quota. None of these who overeat, they only take what is that is required, right? But when we
true.
put an man in this picture, he will exploit the
Overconsume,
land,
yes.
he will exploit the primary consumers, he will exploit the secondary consumer, and he will exploit everybody. Basically, he will
Correct,
destroy
correct.
the whole pyramid. Why? Because um, if he acts senselessly, unobliged, or undutiful, then he will encroach other people's quota also. So when one knows that he has to use only the quota that is meant for him, such a person gets real peace. Okay.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So let's stop here. And any questions or comments?
No, sir. It was an interesting session today, sir, with all the pictures and all the stories.
Okay.